6. This is Savoy 6. Go ahead. Over.
Hello everybody, this is G, and you're listening to the SitRep Modern Miniatures Wargaming Podcast, and this is our holiday edition. Joining us tonight, we have Ralph.
Hello.
We have Jim.
Hey, what's going on, everyone?
And we have Chris.
Hello.
So, let's see. Ralph's over in the merry old England, getting ready for Yuletide celebrations, I'm assuming.
And sleep.
And sleep. That's the problem with this podcast. We have people all over the world, so coordinating everybody's time zones is a little tricky. On top of that, we've got Chris up there in the Great White North.
Hello.
How much snow you got?
None.
None?
None.
What?
It got.
Oh, don't start, Chris,
warm.
because you're going to get all the global warming people all up in arms.
Well, it's really warm right now. It's melting. We've got some ice, and that's about it.
And then you got Jim down there probably having to put on long pants because it's, 75 down there in good old Florida?
I don't know what you guys are talking about, global warming. It got down to the 70s today.
Oh, no.
Freezing. It's barbaric.
Yeah. You've been digging out your winter parka, wouldn't you? You've been digging out your winter parka.
And here I was walking.
One day a year that I'm actually have to wear a windbreaker or a sweater or something.
And I'm walking around downtown Chicago today in just a thick pullover, and it was like 40 degrees. It was great. No big deal. So, all right. So let's get this show started. So let's do a little catching up because it's been a little bit since our last episode. Ralph, what are you up to?
Well, I've been taking a break from building my kilos, so I'll probably do that during the holidays, and I got myself a Spectre Ops Hummer. So
Nice.
I've built that up. I have posted some pictures up with it's got like the bull bar on the front, it's got the canvas back on it, it's got some comms gear on it, it's got a satellite dish on it, or the antenna, and some smoke launchers, and it's got an M2 remote gun for the turret, so that's sitting at the top of that. So that's going to be I've done it up as a Spec Ops sort of transport for them. So, and I primed the Puma drone as well, so that's primed white, and it's also got a coat over the top of it as white, because when I was looking at pictures of them, they actually are white, which is interesting.
Really? I would think they'd be almost like an off gray.
It looks, there's lots of different pictures, so you've got like the production shots and the things ones, and it looks white. It might be an off grey, but I'm just going to leave it white because it'll look fine, and then just paint the black bits in.
Nice.
And then that'll then get a milliput base. But I've put a magnet in the base as well, so I can actually take it off the top of the stand.
Excellent.
So I've magnetized that, ready for playing around, and hopefully when Spectre releases their drone rules.
Sounds good.
Which will be hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Excellent. Anything else?
Well, after our last podcast where Jim was sort of volunteered me into doing possibly running Ghost Ops, I'm starting to write up some stuff for Ghost Ops and getting some stuff ready for streaming. So
I cannot deny or confirm anything.
I'm excited for that. And
this is Beasts of War on tabletop rules. If you thought of the idea, it's assumed you have pre-volunteered.
yeah.
Those who dare win.
That's right. That's the motto I live by. They just came out with their, was it Central America? You sent me the link for?
Yeah, it's the Central America sourcebook just dropped today in PDF, which isn't too bad. So that's two sourcebooks they've done now. So they've done Africa, and now they've done Central and South America. So
Wow.
Excellent. Now, are they ever going to be a print option as well, or is it only going to be PDF?
It depends when you go and drive through RPG. I think at the moment they're just PDF. I know with the core rules you can buy them through drive-through as print.
Yep, that's what I did.
And as a PDF. I got my rules in print because I backed them on Kickstarter when it went live on Kickstarter. So I got some of the other stuff as part of the sort of the stretch goals.
Excellent.
But the rest of the stuff that's been coming out, I've just been getting off drive through RPG. In a way, I prefer PDF I've got a Kindle and things, so I can actually put the rules onto that and not have to worry about carrying 4 billion rule books when I go around and do things.
Well, that always makes sense, but there's nothing
Nothing
like
wrong
the
with
smell
having
of a page and a feel of an actual page. And
Yeah.
I'm a little old school when it comes to those kind of things. I like
Oh,
my
I love-
books.
I love books. I mean, I've got I've been tidying up around here, ready for the Christmas, and so I've got all my Force on Force books together. I've got the Spectre Ops book there. I've got all of the Skirmish Sangin books all together as well. So I do get the book. It's just easy, I think, now, sort of putting stuff onto the Kindle and dragging the Kindle with me.
Excellent. Did you want to talk a little bit more about the Ghost Ops now,
Well,
or do you want to?
I can. I mean,
Do you
I've got
kind
got
of have a
some
layout?
ideas.
What you're thinking?
Yeah, well, because Ghost Ops, when I've read it and when I've looked at other sort of games of that ilk, yes, Ghost Ops looking at Spec Ops and Special Operations, but it lends itself to, I would say, a Tom Clancy style of game.
Okay.
Sort of that techno thriller style of setting. So I decided to reinstall the last 2 Splinter Cell games and Ghost Recon Wildlands on the PC. So I've been playing through Conviction and Blacklist, so that's given us some ideas. And of course, Ghost Recon Wildlands is just full of wonderful ideas anyway.
Excellent.
So, but the main idea being that in the rules you have a safe house.
Uh-huh.
So the safe house for the players is going to be a super galaxy. So the converted transport plane. So that's going to be the base of operations, because then it becomes a movable base of operations, which I thought was an interesting idea for the unit. But I'm not going to be using their ICO setting for the unit. It's going to be a totally, shall we say, a made up unit of people.
Sure.
But I still need to decide where it sits, whether it'll be NATO, UN, or probably the US government or the president. I haven't decided yet.
I don't know. NATO sounds good because you can be all inclusive with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I may pick Jim's brains.
Or could you do like Interpol or some intelligence agency?
My only suggestion with that would be, because we were talking in some earlier conversations about this as well, is the choice of the you said a C5 Super Galaxy.
Yeah,
that's a really, really big aircraft.
You'll be limited. Yeah,
a lot of infrastructure. You're only going to be able to, which is fine. I mean, if we're going to be like super top tier elite, guys with vehicles, and you can park light vehicles, light tanks inside of C5 Galaxies if you really wanted to get serious. I remember one of the other ideas you were kicking around, and I'm not trying to make a suggestion, but it does give you a little bit more flexibility, is with the Hercules.
Yeah.
The Hercules can get lower. It can provide tactical air support, like a Spectre gunship. It can land out in the open in certain areas, like deserts or whatever. And you can land it in much smaller airfields. Yeah. And a smaller force or parent organization, for lack of a better term, might be a little more plausible if you wanted to go with this. You can go with the Galaxy. I'm not trying to say go with it. But it's pretty much going to be either NATO or United States.
Yeah.
So when we say NATO, we say basically United States. It's almost the same thing.
It is just originally, I was thinking actually using a Super Hercules, because I was looking, to see what the most current and up-to-date version of that type of transport is. Because you've got the Galaxy, you've got the Hercules, and there's another one as well.
Well, you've got the C-17 Globemaster.
Yeah, that was the other one as well. Looking at the Globemaster.
Either one would work. It's just what kind of, and maybe we could talk about it with the players, or you can talk. It's your campaign by all means.
Yep, it's your world.
What kind of group we're going to be.
Yeah.
If we're going to be like super secret, super well funded, we have like our own vehicles, our own heavy weapons, then maybe the C5 Galaxy would be better, because it has that heavier lift capacity and better range. Yeah. If we're really going to be globetrotting, if we're going to be more regional, like the Middle East or in Latin America, where there's fewer airfields that can land a craft that size, or wherever we go, we're going to get noticed. You can't exactly hide a C5 Galaxy, you know.
No, you can't hide the Galaxy.
So if we're going to be more covert, or if we wanted to be like a smaller organization, if we wanted to be private, like a PMC thing, that would probably have to be, you know, a smaller aircraft. Again, it's totally. It's a good question, and it's going to be about like what kind of group we or I should say you really want to run.
Yeah, I mean the other thing as well you were saying, Jay, about intelligence. They have added, I think it's in the expanded rules, has got the rules for intelligence operators and or Interpol, that type of, you know, international police. So there are, because the way the rules work is you have if I remember correctly, you have a career. It's been a while since I need to go through the rules. We have a specialization. That be, you know, sniper, assaulter, K9 unit, things like that. But they've added in these ones as well. So it's really going to be down. I'll come up with something for the players, you know, a organization, and let the players think about where they want to slot within that. But the other thing as well is it will be a small unit. So my concept as well was basing it sort of around Rainbow Six.
Sure.
Around that sort of nucleus that's in the original Rainbow Six novel, which is a really good read if anybody hasn't read it. I do recommend Rainbow Six as a novel to read. It's really good. But also then a bit around some of the other stuff that sort of Tom Clancy did when it was small units, because he had the Op Center novels and you also had Net Force, which are two interesting series to read as well. So it's just working it out and working with the players, because the way I'll run the game, and I do this with a lot of the stuff I do, especially with role playing, is I see the GM as a storyteller. So it's not going to be, I'm not going to, you know, if I get rules wrong, I'll say in this, you know, if we stream it, which hopefully we will, I'll say, you know, I will get rules wrong. I may misinterpret rules. Don't worry about it, because it's all about the story and the story that you want to be engaged with and the story I want to tell with you as a collaborative group, because that's really what it is. We're collaborative storytellers, just with some dice, you know, sitting on the side there.
Yeah.
So we'll take it from there and see what happens.
Sounds
if
good.
People enjoy themselves, people enjoy themselves. If they don't, they can yell at us and then we can sort it.
How many people are you thinking?
I currently I'm part of a D&D group. And we've got 5 players, so I may probably look about 5. I think 5's probably a nice even number to handle. I've ran a game before. I ran the original Mayfair James Bond game a long time ago, and I did that for 2 players.
Okay.
Which was an interesting way, because then you had, you know, you could, shall we say, shrink the story down almost.
Sure. Because
you had then just two operators, say, running around, you know, killing the bad guys and investigating the Bond. You know, the villain. I've played in games when there've been more than 5, and I think that becomes unwieldy. Okay. Unless you're a games master like Matt Mercer, and then, you know.
Well, I think 5 is a good number to start with.
Yeah, especially for something like that.
Yeah,
I think, you know, it lends itself, because then you can have somebody, you know, you can have a group that says go out, but you can also have people in support if they want to do a support role.
Excellent. Well, it sounds exciting. I'm very anxious to see how it turns out and get playing. I'm paging through my rule book as we speak, so it looks very promising. It really does. Anything else you want to add on to that for now?
Nothing else. Okay. That's all I've been doing, apart from putting my feet up now. I'm not back at work until the 2nd of August.
Well,
the 2nd of January.
2nd of August, wow.
Whoa, I wish.
Wow, England really has a liberal holiday, you know.
No, I work at a university, so I'm off all this week, and then I'm off until the 2nd of August, January.
Nice. Very good. How about you, Jim?
Okay, I'm going to need you guys to just take a moment, kind of sit back, hold on to something, okay, and just be cool. All right, this is going to be a little bit of a shock. I am actually painting some miniatures.
What?
Oh, I know, right? Oh my God, what's going on? So, okay, recently there's been a lot going on. Those of you who may be on tabletop, beastofwar.com, know that I've been writing Darkstar rules pretty feverishly since pretty much the week before Thanksgiving. I won't go into it too much here because it's not really Modern Warfare, but suffice it to say, I've been writing about 130, 150 page rule book, and I've been trying to get it out before Christmas. It might be New Year's, but I'm definitely trying to get it done before the year is out. That's a very chunky, beefy 1980s style tactical game. A lot of rules. Pretty formidable project. I've been putting it off for 6 years, and I finally got enough people, pestering. I don't want to say pestering, but people asking me again, and then they started contributing money, and so I said, okay, well now I got to do it. So that project's coming along well. It's been eating up most of my hobby time, though. That and Christmas Carnage.
Yes.
Maybe get into that a little bit later. Christmas Carnage is every year we have a silly little thing on Tabletop Beasts of War right around this time of year, where some nefarious, wicked, demented force or another gets the bright idea that Christmas is terrible and no one's going to get any presents this year. So they raise an army and they launch an assault at Santa's North Pole Winter Village. So we have all these little Christmas figurines or whatever. We've actually built an army of those because we're demented like that. Little elves, little reindeer cavalry, polar bear heavy infantry, things like that. And we put an army against it. We have a game and we do a battle report, and it gets obviously very silly, very fun. It's just a fun way to say Merry Christmas to everybody on the site. So we're rolling out the previous 4 years that we've been doing it. We've been doing it since 2014. That's been rolling out in the projects page. Meanwhile, this year's game has now been conceived, set up, run, photographed. The essays have been written. Everything's been submitted. Lance has been working on some of the cover graphics for that. So we hope to see that actually published on tabletopbeastsofwar.com on 24th of September. Now I got the wrong month. Everyone's got the wrong month this stream. 24th of December, Christmas Eve is a Monday. We're having this rolled out on Monday, Christmas Eve, so everyone can see if Santa Claus and his North Pole Defense Force yet again stands tall, and for Christmas Carnage Episode 5 defends the happiness of Christmas, for good little boys and girls all over the world, and et cetera, et cetera.
Excellent.
So anyway, for Modern Warfare, we've been experimenting with our continuing. We were talking about this on some previous streams or some previous podcasts. The wargaming at a distance. So what we're doing is we're managing to use some web conferencing software where we can reach out and engage with some people in the community, regardless of where they are in the world. As soon as you settle out the time zones or whatever, Ralph can tell you all about that. Set up the time zones. We can log in and we can actually have a game at a distance. Moving around units on a shared desktop. Things like that. So what we've been doing lately is some engagements from the opening hours of the 6-Day War. So we're looking at June 5th, 1967. Specifically, the Israelis versus the Egyptians in the Gaza Strip. So the opening part of that war, for those who may not be familiar, of course, everyone knows about the big airstrikes that kind of kicked that off. The opening part of that war was only against the Egyptians, and those are the battles that we're doing in these games. The system we're using is Arab-Israeli Wars by Avalon Hill. That's kind of the granddaughter to the original Panzerblitz series. It goes from Panzerblitz to Panzerleader to Arab-Israeli Wars. And we're doing General Tal's 84th Division invading into the battles of Rafah, Khan Yunis, and Gaza. This is in the opening hours of the the 6-Day War in 1967. So if you kind of picture the Mediterranean in your head, okay, where everyone knows where Israel is at, where the Mediterranean coast kind of goes from north and south, and then you hit the Sinai Peninsula and Egypt, and it moves to an east or west kind of a line, where that bottom corner, so to speak, a bottom curve of the Mediterranean coast is, that's right where the Gaza Strip is. And the Gaza Strip was a very volatile place in 1967, even worse than it is today, obviously. And this was one of the opening bones of contention for that war. So we've been doing a lot of wargaming for our moderns there in these battles. I've got Israeli Pattons. Those are M48A3 specifically, the old 90 millimeter guns. M113, no M113s. They're still using M3 half tracks at that time. Because of course the Israelis are building everything secondhand. This was long before the Merkaba, obviously. Up against militia of the 20th PLA division, and then hardcore Egyptian infantry. We've got Egyptian infantry of 11th Brigade, 9th Brigade at 7th Infantry Division. Anti-tank guns, those are Su-100s left over from World War II. Joseph Stalin 3s left over from the very end of World War II. Actually, I don't think they ever actually saw combat in World War II. But when the war was over, the Soviets had all these things laying around. They started selling them off to their client states. There's a brigade of heavy armor. So you get to put JS-3s up against M48 Pattons.
Wow.
And also some Centurions. So Tall's main brigade, the 7th Armored Brigade of his 84th Division, is built around two battalions in this battle, the 82nd and the 77th. 77th is probably the more famous one. That's the one that's going to be at the Heights of Courage, the Golan Heights in the 73 war. Those are mostly Pattons at this time. They would upgrade to Centurions later. And then the 82nd, the 82nd Battalion had all their Centurions. So, T-55 Centurions, Su-100s, things like that. It's a big battle. We may have pushed it a little bit too far. I wanted to see, to give this method of gaming, to give it a bit of a stress test. And so this game has, again, insurgents as well as regular forces. It's got tanks, it's got infantry, it's got off-board artillery, it's got on-board artillery, mortars, smoke screens, blocks, improved positions, trenches, combat engineers to clear all these obstacles for the Israelis. There's really paratroopers mounted in half-tracks or doing the tailgate jump. That's 202nd Brigade, 202nd Brigade of 84th Division. At least 3 different flavors of Arab forces. Like I said, we have Arab tanks, Arab armor, and PLA, Palestine Liberation Army militia, in the streets of what's today the Gaza Strip. So we got about half that game done, and we had to call it. It was like a 4-hour meeting, so we're going to have to go back and either re-evaluate, try a different, either finish the game or, try a smaller game or maybe take some of the rules out, take some of the elements out. Because we may have pushed it a little bit, but we still had fun. It was still a successful meeting. Everyone's learning a lot. Everyone's enjoying the games, and getting a taste of how complicated and how involved command tactical level warfare really can be. So that's what we've been doing for modern combat in the past couple of weeks.
Nice.
That sounds huge.
It's altogether, we got about 120 counters on the board. Each counter is about 50 men, so roughly either 50 men or 5 tanks. It's a platoon-based game, so yeah, it's pretty substantial. It's the cut-down version that's actually published in the Arab-Israeli War Rulebook. That thing is huge. That covers pretty much the whole thing from Gaza itself down through Khan Yunis, through Rafah. Now you're into the Sinai Peninsula proper. Sheikh Shawedi down through the Jarati Pass, and then finally the El Arish Road. That's a good 30 miles of desert, buildings, roads. It's one of really only 2 major battles that take place in the 1967 war. But it was a challenge. We had some fun. We might need to step back and tweak it a little, but we're going to try it again. And we are learning, and I'm learning how to run these games, and of course my players are learning how to play these games. And we're making progress. So we'll stick with it and see where it goes.
Jim, do you remember a really old game called Aircav?
Aircav.
Yeah.
The closest I came to playing anything called Aircav was Boots and Saddles from GDW Assault.
No, this was a old Hex game, Aircav. I had a copy of it, and I'm trying to remember who did it now, which was an interesting one. It was predominantly helicopter combat, so you had, I think it was Heinz and Apaches, taking on each other. I'm going to have a look now and see if I can spell it. That's pretty much Boots and Saddles expansion for GDW Assault. It's 1985 expansion for a 1983 game, so it's pretty old. But it was mostly Germany. Theoretical Germany and the whole Team Yankee thing. This was by West End Games, and it came out in 1985. It's on Board Game Geek.
Okay.
Yes, I remember, because I used to own a copy of it, and it was 2-player tactical level simulation helicopter combat from 1975 through to 1990.
Okay.
Units represent individual vehicles, helicopters, infantry squads.
We're one entire echelon level above that. What you're describing is level 1 gaming, tactical gaming. This is level 2 command tactical. And in this particular scenario, there are no aircraft. Amazingly, a lot of people think the Israeli Air Force should be in every 1967 game there is. Number one, people put too many aircraft on wargaming tables, I feel. And number two, the Egyptian Air Force has already been shattered, and the Israeli Air Force is now busy bombing the crap out of Syria and Jordan. Again, this is the morning of June 5th, 1967. So I just bring that up because some of our players and observers were a little surprised that I have a 1967 spearhead Israeli game in the Six-Day War and not a single Israeli Air Force aircraft in sight. And that's historically what happened. The Israeli Air Force is only so big; it has to attack these targets one at a time, and it was able to do that because of a lack of communication between these Arab states and et cetera, et cetera. But when that first ground force went in, they had no air cover whatsoever. At least not tactical bombing of air targets. Those aircraft were busy blowing up the Egyptian Air Force while it was still on the runways earlier that morning.
Excellent. All right, Chris, you're up.
I haven't been doing a lot of modern stuff. I've been working on my crew for my UAZ that I just got the light machine gun from Spectre. And I've been working on a fire team for my DPR for my Ukrainian project off and on. But other than that, just been working a lot right now.
Damn real life.
Yeah. Oh, and we're starting This Is Not a Test campaign here pretty soon.
Oh, wow. Okay. Excellent.
That's it for me, though.
That's it, huh?
Yeah.
Well, for me, to round it out, I'm still trying to get through painting my guys for my SOCR boat. I don't know what it is. I just sit down and then something else comes up. And then I pulled out a rule book I bought 2 years ago from Little Wars. It's a little convention that we have here in Illinois. And I think they have other locations throughout the country as well. It's called Hind Commander. It's about helicopter warfare. Go figure.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, now I have to return what I was going to buy you for Christmas.
So this one is designed for smaller scale miniature, so like 2, 3, and 6 mils. You basically are leading a group of helicopters, so like a squadron or a company. And you do obviously tank hunting missions, infantry insertions. So anything you can do with a helicopter, you can do with this game. So I did buy some helicopters from Pico Armor to play with this game.
So some 3 mil?
Those are 3 mil. I'm thinking I might go up to 6 or 10, to be honest with you. I don't know yet. They're really small.
They're tiny.
They are very tiny. So I'll have to see once I actually get playing it. But it's a pretty intense rulebook. It kind of reminds me of some late 80s, early 90s rulebooks. So it has that flavor to it, at least in my opinion. It's very interesting to go through. So that is what I am working on at this point for modern related. So
are the scenarios in that game, are those like theoretical or
yeah,
realistic?
They're mostly theoretical. I imagine you could, the Fulda Gap and, what we do in Iraq or, Afghanistan. You could put all those, into play as well. So it's pretty open to interpretation and how you want to design a scenario. But,
Soviet Spetsnaz and air mobile insertions in Afghanistan, 80 to 89 might be interesting to look into.
Yeah. And most definitely. And I know a few guys over on the Beast of War site that would be really happy to see some stuff in small scale, with our 6 to 10 mil. Toros and Commander Rob would be 2 of them that I can think of.
Oh, yeah.
So, but that's what I've been working on. Obviously I got my Ghost Ops rulebook. I've got to get brushed up on that. I already got an idea for a skill package for my character. So it's going to involve demolitions. It's
oh, there you go.
So yeah, I'm excited. This will be great. So in the news. So there are several things. Who would like to go first? Anyone?
Go, I'll let you go first, Jay, because the main one being,
Okay.
I think, the Spectre announcement of sort this week.
Yeah, there's two big announcements that came out over last week or so. The first one is that everybody here at the Sit Rep podcast would like to extend congrats to Matt from Spectre Miniatures and his wife for the birth of their baby boy. Congrats to them. And then
Hello to no more sleep.
no more sleep. Well, I don't think he got much sleep. If you ever follow him on Facebook, he's all over the world. It makes you wonder what he really does, you know? He's in places like I'm in Somalia, and this is my breakfast, and it's a piece of something, and it looks like rice. So it makes you wonder what he really does for a living. And then other Spectre news, they are going to be at Adepticon in 2019. I am blown away. So I'm really excited. I commented on the announcement. I don't think I've heard back, so I'm going to have to physically reach out to Steven and Matt, maybe even Jess, and say, hey, you're going to be at Adepticon. Let's get together. Let's get some stuff, under camera. They haven't had an opportunity to make it to the Ireland studio, but why not bring it to the Beast of War US studio? We're literally 40 minutes from the convention center. So, we can see if we can get some stuff there and then talk about some other things that might include a boot camp. So, we have to talk. So no pressure to anybody, but, so also really exciting news. They've had a lot of stuff, their new set of miniatures. Did one of you guys get the new set? Is that the Amber?
I've got the Ember.
Okay.
I've got the Ember set from Black Powder Red Earth, which is, I think we'll cover the last one, but I'll go over again. Is the absolutely astounding set of miniatures. I think Steven's outdone himself with the sculpting on them.
Excellent.
I know that they would have worked closely with the guys over at Black Powder, to get the look right, but also working with the guys at Black Powder for their miniatures for the Black Powder board game that's going to be coming out whenever the Black Powder get around to doing that, supposedly next year. But the miniatures are absolutely superb. I'd recommend anybody there. They're slightly more expensive than the standard packs by a couple of pound, but you get the six operators, you get the 6 set of optics, which are separate, so they're a little bit fiddly to fit to the helm.
Oh, are they?
Yes, the additional optics that you can buy from Spectre, because I've got especially that the what's called task force operators come with the sort of the new style of helm.
You're talking about optics that go on the weapons or go on the helmets?
On the helmets.
So like their NVGs?
Yes.
Holy crap. This is at what scale?
28.
28 mil.
Man, those are going to be some small bits.
They are small pieces of metal. They are quite fiddly to put on, but I use Gorilla Glue on mine and they seem to stick fine. It's just cutting them to get them on. But the ones that come with Ember are the standard NVGs. But you can buy NVGs as separate, so they come as in packs of 6. So you get 6 on like a mini sprue. You can get the NVGs. You can get what's called a smart opticals, and you can get the quad, which we all see from people which were also in like the Zero Dark 30 with the SEALs wearing the quad and stuff.
Yeah.
So
did you guys ever try playing an actual war game with night rules?
Spectre
with the lights off or like
no. I'm just wondering if anyone's ever tried it. I mean, I've done it in a couple different game systems, and I've done it in a couple different game systems where one side has some sort of night vision gear and the other side doesn't. Namely, tank battles in the Middle East.
Spectre does that, don't they? They have
Spectre do. Dougie Robinson and Carl. I can't pronounce Carl's surname. Sorry, Carl. I know Carl. They when Spectre first rule set came out, they did let's run through the rules and test them. So you had a 4-6-man SEAL team taking on a pack of insurgents with hostages, and shall we say the SEALs with NVG at night.
Nice.
So how did that work? Does anyone know? Or
it's the way it works with the rules. If I remember correctly, there's lots of different things in the Spectre rules. One of them is you can say whether your opponent's alert or not alert. is one thing. So you have an alert status. Night vision, night cuts down the ranges.
It cuts down the ranges for the side that doesn't have NVGs.
Yes,
or night
exactly.
vision gear, right?
Yeah. So from what I can gather from when Carl and Dougie did it is the SEALs basically night vision, the opposition were on alert, suppressed weapons. Can you
It was
see
very
where this
unfair.
Yes, can we see where this is going? It's like
But
asymmetrical warfare.
it is, but on the same
Black Ops
side, I
2
thought the militia or the OP4 in this case, there was, I think it was what, 2-3 to 1 as far as numbers. So,
as soon as the weapons fire, especially on in the rules, if they're not suppressed, if I remember correctly, I can't remember because it's been a while since I've played Spectre. I think the opposition become alert. So as soon as there is some sort of combat going on, there is a chance that the opposition go from an unalert state to an alert state. The other rule set that I know deals with night fighting is Black Ops by Osprey.
Oh yeah, I do not have that rule set.
I've got a copy of it on the shelf somewhere along with Rogue Stars. But if I remember correctly, Black Ops has night fighting in it. Night fighting, not night fighting. Might have night fighting in it as well.
Melee phase.
Melee phase, yes. Black Ops has it as well, though. Has rules for stealth and sort of night engagements.
Oh, cool.
It's a type of thing that needs to happen, I think, especially in modern and ultra modern combat, because it's going to happen. You're going to have both sides, especially if you're dealing with modern Russian and modern Russian, modern China, modern North Korean, or whichever op4 it is, against a NATO force. The forces are going to have night vision.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, Jim, but we trained exclusively for night fighting.
American armor doctrine since the late 80s has been, even in the daytime, always use the night vision sight. In a tank battle anyway, where both sides have first generation night gear, it almost doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Where it gets interesting is where one side has it and one side doesn't, or one side has better night vision gear and the other side doesn't. The games I've been playing, they'll be like, okay, if the Egyptians are trying to break out of this Israeli encirclement, this is on the east bank of the Suez Canal, 73. The Egyptians are moving. They have to stick to this road until the first Israeli force is spotted. So even though everyone's got their units on the map board, there's no double blind rules. This is what I was asking about. If you guys ever played with double blind rules, where literally one side's force is not on the map. The side that doesn't have night vision gear literally can't see the other guy's units. And then once they do fire, okay, now you're spotted. You can fire up to 4 hexes at normal. After that, you can only fire at past 4 hexes if an Israeli unit specifically has fired. And then you're shooting at a -1. Basically, you're shooting at his muzzle flash. Whereas the Israelis with night vision gear are shooting, as if it was daytime. And again, they're outnumbered like 12 to 1, But again, it's that asymmetrical night vision aspect to the game where one side can see what's going on and one side's pretty much fighting blind.
So in that case, how would the side with night vision move if they're not on the board? How would you account for that?
Well, in this scenario, in this particular scenario, both sides are on the map. What I've done is I have experimented with small Panzer Leader games or even Valorant Victory games, kind of like the spiritual ancestor, not spiritual ancestor, the spiritual descendant to Advanced Squad Leader, where you play with double blind or hidden movement. And that's where you need 3 players. You need a player, obviously 2 players, and you need a referee. And you need 2 complete sets of the board and on different tables.
Oh.
Yeah, that's where the guy's going back and forth, and he's literally updating both maps. And a unit is not placed on your map until you got a spotting roll or until he shoots at you or whatever. And only then do you see him. Meanwhile, you're trying to get from point A to point B and just not even have, because we all have rules and God knows, all kinds of game systems where, I can't see that unit because I haven't spotted him yet. It's nighttime, or it's raining, or it's foggy, or he's in trees. But at the same time, the unit, the model is there on the table, so you obviously know it's there.
Yeah.
You have to kind of pretend you don't know it's there. But in a true double blind rule set, or not really a rule set, a variant on an existing rule set, that unit is not on the table. Period. And you have to look at that map and you say, okay, there are some trees here. There's a ridge there. There's some buildings there. Where could these guys be hiding? And it adds a bit of tension. It adds a lot of tension to where, you literally don't see the physical pieces on the physical board until they shoot at you. And then the game master comes over to your table and says, this guy just took a shot at you. And he puts a little tank on the table or a machine gun nest or something. Oh, by the way, you just lost 3 guys. But at least he spotted, so that cost you.
Yeah. There's.
Sorry,
go
Jay.
Go ahead.
I was thinking as well as if you're doing something like that in, shall we say, modern day, so say from the 2000s up, how would drones influence that? Because you're going to have your UAVs, your spotters, aren't you? That are buzzing around there,
spotted from the air.
Yeah.
Well,
between World War II, modern, ultra modern, and into sci-fi, I have found, again, this reasonable people may disagree. I've just found that technology is a great problem solver. Mm-hmm. One side has drones, okay, everything's spotted, don't worry about it. One side has, night vision gear, okay, both sides have night vision gear, okay, everything's spotted. Command rules. Does it really matter who's in command and who's not? Everyone's got radios, everyone's got comm uplink, everyone's got GPS, everyone knows where everybody is. It's when you wind the clock back further through historical periods, then more of these restrictions really start to pile on. We were talking about this a lot during our World War I series, where most World War I games are really only World War II games that were re-released. I mean, Great War, PSC's Great War, 1918 probably by Battlefront. Most World War I games aren't really World War I games. They're World War II games with some new restrictions. And it's those restrictions going back in time where it's not, the actual machine guns, the tanks, the artillery, those are all largely the same. But it's no one's got a radio, no one's got air support, no one's got air reconnaissance, nobody's got, wireless communications. And that's where simple things like how a mortar works really changes. And it's down to what can you see, who can you talk to, that technology behind the technology, that technology behind the weapons. Where what got us started on this was the whole night vision goggles on top of the guy's helmet. I mean, do you play that WYSIWYG where this guy cannot see because I don't have the little night vision goggles bolted to his helmet, or how does that part of it?
It depends, because the way I've played Spectre and the way that a lot of the way Spectre is, should we say, mentioned especially on the Facebook group, which I do recommend anybody that hasn't joined that is interested, if you go and have a search for Spectre Wargaming Miniatures, I think it is. I'll post the link somewhere. My brain doesn't want to work today. It's a lot of it is scenario narrative based. So, and there are rules. There are point system in the rules, so you can point up your guys. So you can point up your tier 1 with the different gear sets and things like that. Yeah. So you can point up saying you've got MVGs, you've got a suppressor, you've got subsonic ammo, you've got a laser dot, things like that. Or the way that I wrote a scenario just to get used to doing it. So the idea was I had 6 special forces operators, and the idea was they were basically SAS. There was an African village where there were some doctors from Montreal, Doctors Without Borders, doing some vaccination, and there was some, like there'd been a coup, or there was some, militia coming in there to grab the young men. So the doctors were hidden because, Westerners become great hostages, and the SAS was sent in to rescue the hostages, rescue these people before they were located by the militia. Bit of play on the Tears of the Sun movie, the Bruce Willis movie.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of play on that. I did a thing with the rule in the rules. It's not in the rules, but it was like a special rule in the scenario, and that was is each turn the militia would search a building, and if they rolled a 6, they located the Westerners. So you technically had a time delay on it to get into that. But I just pointed out, I didn't really point it out, I just said the Special Forces guys have all got this. And what I did as well was I looked at the miniature. because I got a set of the SAS jungle miniatures, which really do look nice.
Yeah, they do.
So I just said, right, so that guy's got an auto shotgun and an M4. There's a guy there with an M219, an M249. The rest of them have got M4s, I think they are. So I just went through and went, well, they've got that. They've got jungle packs, so they're probably going to have this, and this, and a couple of them had grenades and things. So I just built it out as you would for the scenario, and gave the opposition. They had a couple of tentacles, lots of M4, lots of AKs, a couple of RPGs, because it was a ragtag militia type of force. But where you only had 6 special forces guys, you had about 30 militia.
Yep.
So it's that sort of off kilter. Yes, they might not be well trained, but they have lots of numbers, and if they do score, if you get into an open firefight with them without using smoke or whatever, it can become quite lethal for the special forces guys. So that's how I do it. Any scenario that I come up with, especially using spec, that is, I come up with the idea of the scenario, then look at what the opposition force, look at what the blue force is going to be, and look at what red force is going to be.
Excellent.
But you can point it up.
Yeah.
Well, points are great if I understand what you're saying correctly, Ralph. If you use them almost like retroactively.
Yeah.
Not like, okay, we're going to have a 500-point game. Okay, no. I'm going to have 2 points of goggles and 1 point of yeah. Here's the force. Here's what I've got. Here's the story. Now, how many insurgent militia do I need to make this a balanced game? I need 37 militia because not because both sides were aiming at the same target. One side for the story or for the narrative had X amount. Okay, in order to make the game fun and interesting for both players, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, it turns out that I've got 300 points worth of operators. I'm going to have 300 points worth of insurgents.
Yeah,
right.
The other thing as well, which is interesting for anybody that's interested in looking at a breakdown of the units, especially for Spectre, is Michael Charge on his blog last year, I think it was, posted up some quick breakdowns. So he pointed up like a 6-man SWAT team, a 6-man criminal team, for things like that. So, it was just like a balance between the two op forces. So he did like a 6-man SAS team. He did a 6-man or 8-man GRU Spetsnaz team and stuff. So you can actually look at how that's done, and that gives you a really good basis. If you're just getting used to using the rules and you want something really quick, that Michael's blog is really good for looking at that. And then you're able to, this is a sample force, I'll use that. And then move, then you've got your forces set up ready.
I was thinking about the night rules that Jim had brought up a little earlier. I still think it'd be a good idea to turn off the lights and play NVGs. I'm going to be the first one to admit, I still have my SPH-4. That's the helicopter crew helmet. I do put it on and play games once in a while, just for that old time feeling. So you just admitted that. You just admitted that to a former Marine supply clerk. I'm going to call my old friends. And you're going to say, "Hey, is anyone missing a helmet?" Yeah. Well, let me tell you a little story. So I was issued this helmet, didn't sign for it, and went to turn in all my stuff. My flight gear and everything, and the helmet wasn't on the list. I can't help it that there was a snafu. So I have
a supply guy not doing his job.
I have a brand new SPH-4 Aviators helmet sitting right on my bookshelf right there. So, good days. Chris, you've been awfully quiet. What's going on?
Just listening to you guys. I ended up with a K-pot, ODs, couple pairs of boots, because they all switched to new uniforms when I was leaving the military. They didn't want them back. They just said, "Here, keep them."
Yeah, there's ways of getting good military surplus.
No, you can't though. Not with our uniforms. They're really careful about even where I work,
Uh-huh.
if we get a set of them in,
Uh-huh.
we have to get rid of them. We have to trash them.
What? Why?
Yeah,
Why is
because
that?
the government here in Canada doesn't want CAD-PAT getting out. They don't want any of it being used for unscrupulous purposes.
Really? Boy, here in the US, you can go to just about any department store and find something in camouflage.
Yeah, exactly.
Same in the UK.
So, Jim, I know you got a few things that you would like to update news-wise.
Super fast. Again, everyone knows I'm more of the operational command tactical hex encounter guy. If anyone's not aware of this isn't so much of a news bulletin as a shout out. If anyone is, as far as like a quick way to get into modern wargaming, if you're ever interested into it, Strategy and Tactics magazine. Okay, that's a once every 2 month magazine that comes out. They've been coming out with for 30, 40, 50 years. They've been coming out with issues since I can't remember when. A long time. It's a military history magazine, but what it does is that it takes it through kind of a wargaming perspective. Now, these are going to be, our game board hex encounter kind of games, our more operational level, divisions and corps and armies kind of a game. But nevertheless, there's a lot of wargaming information in there. What the men are equipped with, what their uniforms look like, what vehicles are driving around, and things like that. And again, Strategy and Tactics was going on for years, on end. And then in the last 5 years or so, maybe a little longer than 5 years, maybe like the last 10 years or so, they've kind of calved off 2 spin-off publications. One is World at War, which strictly deals only with World War II, because I guess they realized that half of their every issue is always about World War II. So they said, okay, we're just going to give World War II its own publication. And the one that I'm talking about for this podcast is Strategy and Tactics Modern War. So I just picked up earlier tonight, in fact, issue 39. That's their January-February issue, in which they talk about all kinds of things. The first one is possibilities for a war in Iran if Russia decides to head south and start poking around in Iran. So every one of these issues is greatly illustrated. It's got all kinds of wargaming experts in there. Ty Baum is in there. Joseph Wren is in there. He's all these game designers are in there. They publish a new game in every issue. Or the game doesn't come in the issue, but they talk about the game or whatever. And then you can buy the game if you want. You mail in for it, or you go to the website and order it in. But the magazine is all the background information about this. So they're talking about what is really going on in Iran right now, like surprisingly amounts of high detailed information. We were talking a couple podcasts ago, about no one's been able to come up with a good map of Mogadishu for Day of the Rangers. Modern War had a perfect down to the individual building map of that, like 3 or 4 issues ago. So they have some pretty good information in here. In this issue, they talk about the Iranians. They talk about the Karar tank. It looks kind of like a T-72, T-90 kind of an upgrade, down to like what types of tanks they're using, how many tanks, what their production schedule is going to be over the next 20 or 30 years. I was surprised to learn that they still have 44 of those F-14C Tomcats that we sold to Shaw. I didn't think any of those things were still flying, but apparently they've got 44 of them still in the air. We were talking about Hercules. They still have 100. They still have C-130 Hercules flying around. All their strategic and IRBM weapons, the Fateh 110 and the Amat IRBMs. How frighteningly advanced those things are getting. The game for this issue is Axis of Evil. Again, it postulates that Russia kind of leads this Eurasian coalition. That's probably Kurdistan, Turkmenistan, all the other stans over there. Let's get together and let's invade Iran and try to get some of that oil or access to the Persian Gulf. And of course, the U.S. NATO response. Of course, the first line of defense there is Turkey. One of the NATO member states that are going to be intimately involved in a war like that. Wild cards like Iraq, terrorism, what's going on with the Kurds, that's going to be in that region. Again, it's not going to be like the miniatures and the Spectre kind of a game that maybe like a lot of people who listen to this podcast are really into. But if you're into your background and you want to try something that's a little bit different, besides, here comes special forces are going to kick down the door and, shoot up Al Qaeda or whatever. This latest issue talks all about Op Plan 5015. This is the all of our preparations, as much as it's not classified, all of our preparations for what is really going to happen if things kick off again in Korea. They list the complete ROK order of battle. It talks about the ROK Type 88 tank. Talks about all their weapons, all the way down to individual weapons, the rifles and machine guns. It does the same thing with the North Korean People's Army. Talks about all their operational commands, naval units, aircraft types, artillery, multiple launch rocket systems, where the divisions are all deployed. If you really want to take a serious look about how the next war in Korea might kick off, if it started today, Modern War might give you an answer. And if you're running an RPG, or if you're thinking about a different kind of war game, a more tactical, 28 millimeter miniature war game, and you want to try something different, for $7 an issue, give Modern Warfare a try. You'll come up with some new ideas, if nothing else. The Sino-Indian Wars that everyone forgets about. Down to the locations, I'm looking at the map right now in front of me, the estimated locations of Chinese nuclear assets in Tibet, as far as we know. And as far as isn't classified, obviously. This is just a public magazine. It's not like it's coming off the desk of the CIA here, but I'm always surprised by what they know and what's actually publicly available and what's actually out there. And again, might not be your thing, but for background, for ideas, for inspiration, especially for some lateral, outside the box kind of modern warfare thinking, I always give Modern Warfare a try.
Is that January, February's issue you said?
Yep.
Okay, I'm writing this down.
Strategy and Tactics is the name of the parent publication, and then if you go to their website, you can buy like back issues or whatever for again, World at War. Strategy and Tactics is Napoleonic, American Civil War, who knows what, ancient Rome they have in there all the time, the Carthaginians, stuff, all over the place. And then for their two children magazines or whatever, they're two child publications, specifically zone in on World War II and Modern War. And would they say Modern War? This is another thing I've been meaning to bring up for a while. For the operational and strategic guy or whatever, or war gamer, Modern War is pretty much anything after 1945. Yeah. So some people might not agree with that definition of modern war. Like, oh my God, it's 1945. You're fighting with World War II weapons. From the operational and strategic standpoint, 1945 is the dividing line because 1945 is after the bomb. And once you have the bomb, war is now limited. There's no more Clausewitzian, total war. Everyone stops building refrigerators and starts building tanks, kind of a war. That's not going to happen anymore. Everything becomes much more of a Sun Tzu kind of a model of warfare, and we see these limited engagements. Algeria, the Suez, Vietnam, all over the place, Southeast Asia. So anything after 1945 is what that particular periodical covers. It's a good idea for stuff. They've had stuff on Ukraine there at least twice.
Okay, I'm going to have to go check it out.
And at least twice, and at least every other issue, I'll put it to you this way. I'm actually only somewhat kidding about this. At least every other issue, the name Putin is in the title of the issue. Putin moves south. Putin's next 20 years. Putin's strategy. What's Putin going to do? Putin's hiding under my bed. Putin's in the closet. Where's Putin? He's
That's a new children's book, isn't it? Where's
there
Putin?
you go.
Where's Putin?
Chris, you had mentioned something about the Ultra Combat.
Yeah. First, there's some news from the Kickstarter from Radio Dish Dash. They have the money now, so because you have to wait a certain amount of time before Kickstarter sends you or provides the funds to you. So they've got the money. The first 18 miniatures they're test casting them.
Yeah.
And they're doing the first spins to test pressure for the casting so they can get the best castings out of the mold. And they should be sending out the first 24-page PDF that they promised, and it should probably be around the end of January. And the other news from them is the Ultra Combat Normandy is up for pre-sale on their website as well. So that's a similar rules set, but World War II.
Nice.
So that's the
This
only.
was like the Skirmish Sangin style game, but for larger formations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's via team upwards, isn't it? So it's like
Yes.
four-man
Yeah,
squads
up
right
to-
up to
Large platoons,
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. And then what you like, Jim, is the ranges are all realistic.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing from Colin about the World War II Normandy. The Ultra Combat Normandy is going to be you're not going to see ranges 42 inches on stuff, and you're very rarely going to use a ruler or a tape measure because the ranges are going to be realistic. So
Awesome.
I do think Ultra Combat might become my go-to World War II rule set. I think
yeah,
of other ones for squad level, so for bolt action size units, I think Ultra Combat might be the one. Especially looking at it and stuff like that, looking at the rules and stuff, I think it's just going to be a nice system to use. You know, from a point of view of being engaging. You know, we've all played lots of different World War II games, and the big one being the one by Warlord, of course.
Yeah.
But that's a popcorn game.
yeah,
And you know, I'm now at the point where I want something a little bit more than just a popcorn game.
beer and pretzels.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So, because it is our holiday special, how about a Christmas wish list for the coming year? I'll start it off to give you guys a little flavor. So, one of my things on a Christmas wish list is, and it's not necessarily solely modern wargaming, I would like to see the rebirth of Avalon Hill.
There you go.
There you go.
I'd like to see it come back to the glory and the amazing company that it once was, producing some amazing games, but obviously it needs to be updated. You know, not all of their games weathered the years. Some of them, Jim would probably say that there's even his favorite games, he's probably tweaked a little bit to streamline and adjust.
Panzer Blitz. I'm going to be buried in my casket with a box of Panzer Blitz. I'm serious about that. I mean, people have always heard me talk about it, but I fully admit that game out of the box is tragically flawed. People have been rewriting that game for 40 years, and they're still doing it. But absolutely, yeah, those were the games back in the day. I mean, again, this is the 1970s and early 1980s. This is before everybody had a Commodore 64 on their desk, so to speak. Before everyone had an Atari 2600. Followed by a Nintendo Entertainment System, followed by, before Netflix, before Hulu, before everything else came along to distract us. I think people's attention spans are nowhere near as long as they used to be. So there are some people who are trying. I think your Christmas list might not be as far off as you might think. I always mention Valor and Victory as like an updated, slimmed down version of Advanced Squad Leader. You know, there are people who are trying. You're not alone in the wilderness. So take hope.
There's some valiant effort out there. And then the second part would be, I would just like to see modern gaming expand and see more offerings. How? I don't know, because, you know, you are truly limited by scale. You could always go down in scale, but then the rule sets have to adjust. There's a lot of work, but I think there's a lot of growth in this genre. And I think there's a lot of promise, and I think the companies that are leading the way right now, you know, Spectre and Skirmish and, you know, some of the other miniatures companies like Empress and all those, they have produced some really great stuff. I would just like to see more. I'd like to see it get a little bit more mainstream. I think the Spectre guys attending Adepticon is very promising. Because that is truly the premier miniature wargaming event here in the U.S. You know, that's all it is miniature wargaming. They've added some board gaming and some cards, you know, because of Fantasy Flight being a big sponsor. But all in all, it's still true miniature wargaming, and it's nice to see that happening. I'm still toying with the idea of my rule set where it's all simultaneous action. I've been thinking about that since I mentioned it a couple shows ago, where it's not you go, I go, it's we go together, and it's real time. Do I move this guy? Does this guy shoot? Does this guy move? I'm in Overwatch, et cetera, et cetera. So
are you talking about like something like a phased movement system?
Well, where you literally, I'm going to move this squad of guys, and at the same time, the other player's moving his guys or setting up positions or whatever the case may be. Somehow we have to declare that, but then it all happens at the same time. So,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know how it would work. I'm, kicking around the idea, and it's a fun, exciting project.
You could do it with if you had a set map. Say, for example, that you had set scenarios with set maps. Each player gets a map with a hex grid on, and you could use dry white markers, so it's like a hidden movement.
Okay.
So it's a bit like a bit like the way X-Wing works with the with the tokens.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you decide I'm going to move forward, say 3. Yeah. You could do something like that where you flip the token over or you show.
Oh yeah. You could almost do that.
Yeah,
people have messed with this and tried different solutions. Again, GEW, the people who came out with Twilight 2000, Traveler 2300, they're not. Yeah, exactly right. They're not known for lightweight games.
No, they're not.
They came out with almost like a great grandchild of Panzer Leader called Assault. And Assault was a game that came out in 1985 or 1983, about 1985. It's Team Yankee done right. Like, for real. Team Yankee done in, like, Panzer Leader scale, where you have, again, the better part of a brigade on the map, maybe 1,000 guys, a couple hundred tanks. But all the counters were reversible, and you would have everything flipped over, and that flipped over side of the counter would only show an arrow. And that arrow shows the facing and direction of the unit and also its formation. And it shows that by how the counter is sitting in the hex. But the point is, then you would also, depending on who's got better electronic warfare, who's got electronic dominance in the battle space, who's got better air recon. I guess nowadays you could also bump that up to drones. The other side is going to have more dummy counters. And these are just basically blank counters with that same arrow on the back. And you put them down, and it doesn't give you phased movement, and it doesn't give you hidden movement, but if you are smart with the way you play your dummy counters, you can really freak your opponent out. You can launch attacks where there are no attacks, and he masses this big counter force over there, and then there's nothing there. You can, fake him out in a different direction. You can pretend that you're strong where you're weak, and pretend that you're weak where you're strong, and And then also for Panzer Leader, people used to play around with the idea of phased movement. And this only worked with small unit games, like maybe 10 counter or 10 total units per side. And they would take the total number of units. They would take the fastest unit, the fastest movement in the whatever scenario you were playing. You would take the fastest unit in that scenario and divide the movement phase into that many steps. And then, say the fastest unit was a 10. Okay, we're going to divide the movement phase into 10 steps. On step 1, the unit that moving 10 is moving 1 hex. On step 2, anyone moving on 2? No. On step 3, okay, maybe now a couple. So your units are literally taking simultaneous movement. It's a real pain, but it does give you that feeling where your tank is driving across the field, and now, you move out with a stug. I see your stug halfway through my movement phase, but because it's all simultaneous, I can now bolt back into the woods. I can charge forward. I can stop where I'm at. I can take a shot. I can, it's the concept is, or the rules are called phased movement. It's a pain. It is a lot of work, and it only works with a small unit count in a game, but it does do simultaneous movement as well as simultaneous fire. And it's challenging. And again, it does crank up that tension. I just don't know if I would try it with that Gaza Strip game I was describing earlier in the podcast.
Sure.
That'd be unreal.
The other thing as well, you could the other one you could look at as well is where you want about the dummy tokens and things like that. The AVP board game uses ping tokens.
Mm-hmm.
So on one side is just a token. On one side, it's just either an alien head or the marine symbol or predator symbol, and you don't know what it is until it comes within range of the sensor or whatever, and you flip it over, and then it shows either to be, say, a hunter or the alien queen or something like that. Something else to think about.
Or
Sure.
could it be nothing?
Or nothing?
Could it
No,
be?
with the predators, yes, because it could be a. If I remember correctly, with the predators, because of the cloaking shield,
Right.
it could be a dummy. You know, so you know, it's just other ways of thinking about that movement. You know, I'm guessing as well is
even if you can't do the movement completely simultaneous, what I think Ralph and I are talking about is if you can force one player or the other or both to make their move based on limited information.
yeah.
It's going to give you that same kind of a feeling.
Yep. Awesome. So, all right, Ralph, you're up. What do you want for Christmas?
Lots of Spectre miniatures, thank you very much.
Matt?
I think
Steven,
I think
you're
I'm
out there.
just so looking forward to seeing what they're coming out in the next 12 months. Really am looking forward to see what they're going to do. Hopefully we'll get with drone rules, which will be an interesting addendum to their rule set. Because you know where I was on about, I'm not interested in beyond pretzel games. Spectre can be a beyond pretzel game, but you can add depth to it by doing the narrative thing and having linking scenarios and having consequences to certain things. So the one I wrote with the doctors, my idea was as if the doctors get caught, it would have went to scenario 2, which would have been a rescue mission from a more heavily armored compound.
Okay.
Where the militia may have had a BPM-1, a BPMP-1, you know, and a couple of technicals, so more heavy firepower, and they were more alert. Or, you know, an offshoot of that could have been they've rescued the hostage and they're making their way back to the landing zone and they get attacked or they get pursued. So, you know, you can branch off and make it more in depth, you know, with the narrative story that you want to tell and make it more fun for the scenarios. But from
almost like a campaign tree kind of a thing.
Yeah, campaign tree, you know, like that's almost cool. Like a choose your own adventure type of thing, you know, and moving forward. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they're doing, especially with their vehicles, because like I said, this Humvee I picked up is really nice kit, really easy to put together as well. I've seen some kits, you know, that are right pain in the behind to put together. I had a little bit of an issue with my warrior that I got from Empress, which is a meaty kit. It's a really heavy piece of resin, but it didn't come with any rules, didn't come with any instructions to put together. And if you don't know what one looks like or there's an issue with it or whatever, you know, it can cause a bit of a pain. This was just so easy to put together. And it's got some nice touches as well as on the back. I've put an antenna. But on the back bumper where you can attach the stuff is the groove is marked out, so you can just take the piece that comes, clean it off a bit, and slot it straight in. So because you buy the basic Humvee and then you buy all the attaching accessories that you want, so you can completely customize the look that you want to go for it as well.
Okay. So
really looking forward to just seeing what they bring out with their miniatures as well. You know, they've done their Russians, they've done their FSB lot with the 50 cal assault weapons.
Ralph's new favorite, the 50 caliber assault rifle.
I picked up the I've got the Spetsnaz set that they did. I've got the full set of those Spetsnaz troopers they've done, and they've got the Russian. It's got the backpack, so you've got the heavy LMG with the backpack belt set.
Scorpion.
Yeah.
Scorpion backpack, yeah.
Yeah, it's got the Scorpion backpack all molded in as well, and it's a nice, just some nice miniatures. They really are.
Excellent. All right, Jim, you're up. What do you want for Christmas or for 2019?
If I could wave a magic wand and have whatever I wanted, I would love to see, because I've always been a fan, obviously, of the Arab-Israeli conflict. It's one of my favorite modern war settings to explore. I do enjoy Flames of War probably more than some people think, especially 4th edition, but I've always had a bit of an issue with Fate of a Nation. And again, nothing wrong with the system, but again, we were talking about earlier in the podcast, the 1967 war really has maybe 3 battles in it. Abu Aghil, that's Sharon's division. The Gaza Strip battle I was just talking about, that's Tal division. And then there's some good infantry battles up north in the Golan Heights. And then if you want to talk about the paratroopers in the streets of Jerusalem, maybe. But, I mean, 1967 was not really a big there isn't a lot of depth there to explore wargaming. However, I would love to see a not so much Flames of War, because that's you can only kind of stretch that rule set so far into the future. But instead of Battlefront doing a Flames of War World War II sequel for 1967, how about a Team Yankee prequel, 1973 Yom Kippur War, where the Egyptians and the Syrians pose a much greater threat to the Israeli Defense Force. The Israelis actually lose a lot of those battles. It's the one war the Israelis didn't really start. And they're really on the back foot for a long, long time. That's the IDF really getting taken to the mat. And, I mean, not to make any kind of a political statement, but just from a wargaming perspective, I mean, that's where the battles really get serious. You can really dig your feet into the sand, so to speak, and get some interesting results on the tabletop. A Team Yankee prequel for Yom Kippur War would include all of the helicopter rules. Helicopters played a much bigger role in Yom Kippur as opposed to Six-Day War. And even more importantly, guided munitions. You have the Israelis with the TOW for the first time they were using, and especially the Egyptians with the AT-3 Sagger, which, again, has no real correlation to World War II, but obviously in Team Yankee, you've got all kinds of guided weapons flying around. I think it would be a great system. I think it would be a great chance to maybe get some T-62s on the table. Lord knows they already got a bunch of T-55s out there. M48s, Shermans, even the first M60s are out, or not the first, like the M60, yeah, the M60A1s are out there. I think it'd be a great system. I think it would be a fun thing to try for an expansion for the Battlefront line.
I've got an amendment as well, sort of to mine what I would like to see for Christmas, and this is going back to something that we all know, as Jim mentioned, and I'm a fan of Twilight 2000 as well. Mm-hmm. I would like to see them update that intro setting, because remember it was set up to the year 2000, wasn't it? So it was from about 1980 up to that. I'd like to see them to bring that forward and rewrite it for, say...
They did it.
Did they do it with the new edition?
Yeah, they did it with the new edition. I'm pretty sure they did.
Because I had a look and I noticed it was still under the Twilight 2000 banner, and I just couldn't see anywhere with the background being updated.
I think that was 2014 they did it.
I'll have to have a look at it, because that's the 4th edition or 3rd edition, I think, with the update.
I didn't even know it was still in print.
I don't.
Who prints it? Because GDW.
It was a new company.
New company took it over. It's on drive-through. Drive-through RPG has it. I'll find it now.
The original Twilight 2000 War goes from again. It came out in the mid '80s, so the war starts off in the dark future of 1995. The Chinese, it did. The Chinese and the Soviets, and they pretty much blow up the world in 5 years. They have World War III last 5 years. And it's July of 2000 when everything just completely falls apart. Yeah. It's not like a 45-minute apocalypse. Like, I mean, you guys know, obviously, but for people who are listening to the podcast, it's more like Mad Max, where it's like the world kind of falls apart gradually. The world takes such amount of damage, the infrastructure, the communications, the economies, the militaries, the governments, that things just slowly start to. And one of the great things I loved about the Twilight 2000 system, or not the system, the setting, is it's not, okay, the Russians launched, we launched, everything blows up. The apocalypse is not an even event. Like when Rome fell in, the 5th century, there were some parts of the world that were still really advanced, some not so much. When an apocalypse comes, it doesn't hit everywhere at once with equal force. And you had these enclaves in Twilight 2000 where things were still pretty much okay. You had Mexico was still in good shape. France was still in good shape. America, Poland, Russia, not so much. China, definitely not. But I didn't even know that they were still writing stuff. So did they call it like Twilight 2020 or something? Or
T2013.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So they did it up to 2013. I never noticed that. I knew they'd done a third edition because it's a third edition, and it's under Games Design Workshop as well.
So Game Designers Workshop is still in business?
It seems to be that's the name that
I'm already in
they are
mood.
pushing it under.
Awesome. Good for
I'll
them.
dig out the link because there's the other one as well, which we both, we all think, as well as Cataclysm Games have got the rights and have been producing BattleTech.
You mean Catalyst Game Labs?
Catalyst. Yeah. Catalyst have, yeah. So
Yeah,
I know that.
We did an interview with Ray Arostia for the BattleTech series a couple years ago.
Yeah.
That was even before the video game dropped. So God knows that they're really doing pretty well lately.
They are. They're really pushing stuff out. But yeah, GDW seem to still exist in a role-playing form because when you look at this list here, it's got Traveller, New Era, Mark Miller's Traveller, Classic Traveller, Twilight 2000, Dark Conspiracy, War Games.
These are all like new releases.
I don't know because I've got War Games of GDW. That's one for you there, Jim, because it's got Bright Lances on and.
That's
You've got
awesome.
a T2000 Korean Peninsula
Yes,
source.
I saw that as well. I've seen that one.
Interesting.
All
the world
right.
just became a little less bleak. Merry Christmas.
All right, Chris, what do you want for Christmas?
Oh, let's see. More 3D printers. More 3D printers. I want to print more scenery for modern. I want to make new modern terrain and vehicles. So yeah, I'd say I want a new printer. My second thing probably would be I would like to go to a con this year, like Adepticon or Gen Con or something.
Well, Chris, Adepticon is in Chicago.
Yes.
It's the hub of the United States. I know some people that have plenty of space, so you wouldn't have to find a hotel. We could probably get you on as crew for Beast of War, so you wouldn't even have to pay for a pass. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I might have to
Think about that. I know some people.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds
She's
good.
in the biz. That's awesome.
Yes, it is.
So, yeah, everybody's got to experience a con. We've had the privilege to go to pretty much all the major ones here. I have not hit Historicon yet.
I was just gonna say, when are we doing Historicon?
I would love to put it on the calendar for this year.
It's kind of in a weird place, but
it's in Virginia, right? Or do they move it?
Last I heard, they always have it like right around Williamsburg.
Yeah. So I definitely would like to go to it. I hear it's pretty amazing. So, yeah.
When I was in the States in 2015, when we came over to see my wife's parents, because her mum, who's no longer with us, my wife's from Ohio. So we went out, and it was the week or 2 weeks before. Is it WizardCon, the RPG one, or DragonCon?
Origins.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah,
Okay.
It was 2 weeks before Origins. Just timed it so we were like
totally a guess.
2 weeks. I think it is Origins because we went to one of the restaurants there and they were when we came home we went and picked up the brochure. I had a look at the brochure online. And they were showing off the Origins mugs that were given away, these glass tankards that were all etched and things like that with like the logo of Origins and D&D logo and things on the back, and people could have picked them up, and it was like, damn, timed that wrong, didn't we?
Well, that's one thing. Our conventions here in the U.S., you usually get a pretty good swag bag, for attending. Gen Con, it's too big. But like Adepticon, you've seen our unbaggings videos that we do on the VIG swag bag. It's ridiculous. But yeah.
Does Gen Con even have any war games? I mean, or is it mostly like board games?
They have a little bit of everything.
Really?
Yeah, they do. They have some. There's one that they do every year that's pretty popular, and I cannot remember the name of it. But it's based on World War I biplane dogfighting.
Dawn Patrol, Wings of Glory.
Somewhere along that, but it's almost like a homebrew. And
okay.
In the planes, I want to say they're, what scale would they be? Probably 1/60th scale biplanes, roughly. I know they're not
big,
1/100th.
Big enough for some color.
Yeah. So I mean, it's pretty interesting, and it's always popular. Everybody plays it. They do have war games there. They pretty much any game that you can find on planet Earth, you can find there.
But it's finding it though, isn't it, with Gen Con, because it is massive.
We say it every year. The stuff we cover for Gen Con is 1/8 of what there really is to see. We just can't cover it all, not with the group that we have, because we're pretty much stuck on the vendor area for the most part. Mm-hmm. You don't get to see the full experience of the game floors. It's not only that whole convention center plus the Lucas Oil Stadium, which is where the Indianapolis Colts play football. They've taken over the stadium, and then they have 5 hotels surrounding that they do events as well. So
there used to be a Gen Con UK, actually. We used to have Gen Con in the UK as well. Yeah. We used to do what was Gen Con Europe. I think that's possibly before Essen became what it is. But there was a Gen Con Europe that used to be run in London. And it was like Gen Con Europe and Gen Con US at the same they ran the same year, so you had one earlier in the year and one at the back end of the year.
Yeah.
And I never got around to going to it. And I mean, something that I've talked to my missus about at some point. It's on the wish list.
Well, you got to at least hit UK Games Expo, Ralph.
At some point, yeah. The one I wanted to go to, which was the main one, would be for me is Salute.
Salute's amazing. We've covered it twice. The year, we did it 2 years in a row. Then we went to UK. Last year, unfortunately, we weren't able to make the hop over to the UK. But it's amazing that they can do all that in a day and a half, because they get in Friday afternoon to set up. They open at 10 o'clock and they're closed by 4, and you have to be out by 6. So, it's amazing what they can do in that time span. So
the whole thing only lasts 6 hours?
Yes.
Salute does, yes.
Yes.
That's almost a waste.
Well,
I never understood.
Well, the problem is it's run by a private game club, the South London Warlords. They physically rent out that space from the convention. Which is owned by UAE, I believe, the Arab Emirates, and and the cost is huge. They couldn't afford a full weekend, so and it's more of a shopping thing than a convention.
It's get all the vendors together and go and basically look at all the shiny and buy.
Yeah, I mean they have some games. But there's no tournaments. There's nothing like that. They have some demos, some participation games, very limited. But it's mostly all the vendors in UK, Europe come and get miniature-based wargaming, and they show their wares, they sell it, and they're gone. So it's not like our conventions here.
No.
Well. It's been a great show. Any last comments for anybody to our listeners out there as we wrap up our holiday special?
Just Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays, and all 6s for 2019.
All right.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to everybody listening, and want to wish a very Merry Christmas to everybody that's serving overseas.
Most definitely. Most definitely. So we will be back after the new year. We're going to close out the show here with a special audio presentation of The Soldier's Night Before Christmas. If you've not heard it, it brings tears to my eyes every time I hear it. My children gave me a copy of it many years ago when I was away on orders. And I wasn't with them for Christmas. So we want to wish everybody out there again a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, a safe New Year, and we will see you in 2019.
'Twas the night before Christmas. He lived all alone in a one-bedroom house made of plaster and stone. I had come down the chimney with presents to give, and to see just who in this dwelling did live. A looked all around, a strange sight to see. No tinsel, no presents, not even a tree. No stockings on the mantel, just boots filled with sand. On the wall hung pictures of far distant lands. Medals and badges, awards of every kind. A sobering thought came alive in my mind. This house was different. It was dark, it was dreary. I had found the home of a soldier. I could see that most clearly. The soldier lay sleeping, silent, alone, curled up on the floor in this one-bedroom home. His face was so gentle, the room in such disorder, not at all how I pictured a United States soldier. Was this the hero of whom I'd just read, curled up on a poncho, the floor for a bed? Then I realized the other families that I saw this night owed their lives to soldiers who were willing to fight. In the morning round the world, children would play. Grown-ups would celebrate a bright Christmas day. But they all enjoy freedom each month of the year because of soldiers like the one lying here. I couldn't help but wonder how many lay alone on a cold Christmas Eve in lands far from home. The very thought brought a tear to my eye. I dropped to my knees and I started to cry. The soldier awakened. I heard his rough voice. "Santa, don't cry. This life is my choice. I fight for freedom. I don't ask for more. My life is my God, my country, my core." The soldier rolled over and drifted asleep. But I couldn't control it, and I continued to weep. I kept watch for hours, so silent and still, as both of us shivered from the cold night's chill. I didn't want to leave him on that cold, dark night, this guardian of honor, so willing to fight. Then the soldier rolled over with a voice soft and pure. He whispered, "Carry on, Santa. It's Christmas Day. All secure." One look at my watch, I knew he was right. Merry Christmas, my friend. May God bless you this night.